Nice. All right. Well, welcome everyone to Food for Thoughts. This is
Episode 9.
episode 9.
This is episode 9.
Thank you, everyone. My name is David.
My name is Kim.
We
This
have
is-
Nadiah.
Ian.
Awesome. Yeah, because normally, I don't know, normally we introduce ourselves and then it's like always different when like people here, like they'll jump in after, like Nak was just like, and I'm Nak, like straight after. And other people will be like, I don't know. So this is fun.
It was like, open the floor to them and see what they do.
See what happens. But yeah, how are you guys?
Yeah,
We're good.
today.
Yeah, feeling good.
Sun's out, so that's
Yeah.
always a bonus.
True. Yeah.
Enjoyed the sun this morning.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Having some milk.
Having some milk in the sun.
Yeah,
Some
like
cashew.
walking to IGA in the sun and then grabbing some milk.
Nice. That's cute.
Plant-based milk.
Plant-based milk.
That's good.
So
How you guys like feeling being in Melbourne now? Are you accommodated? Are you guys settled in?
Yeah, I feel like it's always like once you feel settled and then something comes along, you're like, oh wait, okay, this gives me room to settle in a little bit more. But like, yeah, there's always obstacles nonetheless.
Yeah. I don't feel like definitely settled compared to what we were. Like we moved and stayed with people twice before having this place. And it's been really good here. So we have definitely settled, but not how we want to. If that makes
right.
Can I ask a question about being in a new place and trying to like get used to that routine of familiarity and how that affects your creative processes?
Whoa.
Straight into it.
Oh.
I'm straight into it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can go first.
So for me, at first, I really enjoyed it because coming into a new city and just being like, yeah, we have, like coming from Perth is like, yeah, we have all this opportunity. Obviously got down and then, slowly getting used to everything and I guess everyone. It didn't necessarily present us with the things that we thought it would as often. But creativity wise, I definitely slumped when it came to dancing, just a little bit, not too much. I guess in the process of enjoying like dancing by myself, I really enjoyed dancing with other people and that kept me creative, a lot more creative. Yeah, does that make, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
For me, I got slightly the opposite effect. Because like, oh yeah, you have like all meet these new people, you have, new places to discover and stuff like that. I found that I was having an abundance of creativity, but I couldn't hone into like what I want to further into like this pathway and that pathway. There were just so many that I was dabbling in everything and it wasn't like I was going anywhere, if that makes sense. Like, oh, just like playing with little things. I think that was it. I was just playing, but I wasn't actually moving further along. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Do you guys feel like you're still in that same position now though? Or do you feel like that was like when you first came here? Because it's been, how long has it been now?
9 months.
Yeah,
9 months. Oh, right. It's been a minute.
It's been a baby.
Yeah, for real.
It's been-
Haven't birthed yet.
yeah. Like, do you still feel like you're kind of in that same space now?
I personally feel like it's past that stage. I feel like for me, there's more of a solidified pathway. Yeah. I don't know how best to explain that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you
Definitely.
like
It's the same for me, for sure. But I think it's just, like, I mean, she's already teaching and doing her thing. Like, she wants to do more of that. and I guess the next step for her would be operating like by herself, like not necessarily be a part of studios or anything like that, but more so have a like core focus on what she really wants to have the world and her students experience, I guess. For me, I would for sure say that I have a clearer path, but not 100% clear yet. Only because I feel like, I mean, I'm still working a 9 to 5, which isn't stopping me from doing anything that I want to do, because I have done everything that I want to do, but I still have more to accomplish. And I want to, like, the steps that I'm taking now is like getting uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. And that's like, it's a really scary thing for me, because I always feel like I have been comfortable. And there's practices that I have lived, but I want to live more of and in myself, so that I can really do what I want to do and give, I guess, myself and be of service to others and allow them to tap into the same thing pretty much.
Nice. So I think what's super cool is that you guys, just seeing you guys settle into the community in here, it just felt so natural, and it was just like, it was very cool how, like, I just feel like you guys are just here now, which is dope, man. Like, it's cool, and it's like, it's awesome to have like your energy here, and you guys are like super dope, like thinkers as well as movers, which is really cool. So what I'm curious about is like, how did you guys get to where you are today? Like, I think because this is our first time interviewing a couple, like it's normally just one person. So it's normally like what is your origin story? But maybe if you guys talked about like your origin story as a couple, like how did you guys come to be, you know, because like everyone sees you around, you guys together, you guys doing your thing, and you guys just seem like very like in sync with each other. Like you guys get it. So how did it all start in terms of dance? If you guys don't mind sharing that story, you don't have to.
No one really asked that question, so I was like, whoa.
No.
Yeah, well, I guess it all started with like KRUMP, being in the KRUMP scene. For me, yeah, it was just discovering that subculture. And I've known this guy since I was 16 years old. I'm 25 now.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, well, basically, like, you know, he was, 3 years into KRUMP. Like, he became my big homie, so he was my mentor, teaching me a lot. Definitely hung out a lot, and especially with the KRUMP aspect, you know, having a big homie, it's like, you know, a big brother looking after you. And so for me at that time, because I was moving around a lot, I didn't have my family with me for most of that time. So I sort of had my KRUMP.
The start of that.
Yeah, I sort of had my KRUMP people as like my family, as a way to like express to them. And I guess like I just was drawn to him a lot more because he was my mentor. And I think, you know, from there we sort of saw eye to eye with a lot of things and conversate with a lot of things. Not that they were always agreed upon either.
Yeah.
But
Fight.
We had a few fights before we were a couple. Yeah, pretty interesting actually.
About KRUMP? Or
Choreography.
choreography?
That was the first one.
Yeah, it was like, because I was heavy into KRUMP, so it was like KRUMP comes first or nothing, basically. Like, you choose KRUMP over your urban crew and we're good. You know what I mean? Like, no dabbling into type shit.
And that was me, I was in them both.
And she was in both. And like one of my homies at the time, she was a little homie to him first, and then I actually I was talking to him, he's like, man, Nadiah's not like committed and shit. I was just like, yeah, just drop her.
My
Just
first big homie dropped me.
Just kick her out of the fam.
Wow.
And then, because he was my little homie too. So whoever's like fam, you know, like it's literally hierarchy type shit. So she was under me. She was repping me too.
Right.
Teachings or whatever. So I was just like, yeah, bro, like drop her, man. Fair amount of those cases, you know, but yeah, she felt like freestyle was her more so because she could express herself, especially in that time in her life. And then, after maybe like 2 years of training and stuff, she got like into my fam.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to get into his fam.
Yeah.
It was more like, I'm ready, I need a mentor. And he was like, nah, you're not ready yet. And then I think I was in Singapore at the time. He was like messaging me, seeing all my rounds and stuff while I was there. And he's like, okay, there's a space in the fam for you. And I was like, nah, I'm not ready. Sorry. And then a year later, I think, it just like mutually like agreed, happened. Yeah. And then, so the rest is pretty much history. But from that moment, because we were labbing a lot together and exchanging a lot, then we started teaching together and collaborating and stuff. And
we held an event together.
Yeah, we started holding events.
That's when we were already together.
Oh, yeah. No, actually.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
No.
Interesting time.
You guys are just making this all up.
We made events together, and even like we put a little bit of WA together as well, workshopping and stuff. So that was
nice.
Cool. And then
went to Canada together. Performed
and then
together.
just things just started to like evolve and blossom. So,
oh wow!
We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'm curious, like, how did you get into like KRUMP though? Like, how did that even start? Yeah, well, both you guys, like,
individually.
Like, did you guys see KRUMP somewhere and was just like, I wanna.
Yeah. So for me, it was my sister came home one day. I was watching TV, chilling. I was 16. Yeah, 16 at the time, and my sister comes home. She was like, yo, I think that was around the time when You Got Served was on. And I was already dancing, like trying to freestyle, do glides and slides and, you know,
nice.
Marion and shit. And then my sister comes home and is like, yo, you need to check out this new documentary. I was like, what is it? It's a dance documentary. It's a new dance out called KRUMP. And then I ended up watching Rise that same day. And I'm pretty sure I watched it like back to back twice. And then I was like, man, this is like, it just really resonated with me because of where I was at. And the amount of like emotion and expression that you could actually see them like put out there. And like physically, you can actually see the amount of whether it be like pain, happiness, suffering, entertainment, whatever factor it is or quality of life it is, you could see that. And I just really appreciated how transparent and how raw it was. And then I went into my bathroom. At the time, I had CDs. I would create my own CDs and stuff. And I would play, the hardest track that I knew that I had was Elephant Man, Spin Your Rag. And yeah, I just pretty much just copied what they did or felt like what I thought they would do. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, for sure.
Arm swing, like the basics, but no one taught me. No one taught me until I was like, I didn't have a dance mentor until maybe like 3 years in, like properly. I was teaching everything to myself. And then like, having like KRUMP DVDs and stuff and just watching and then applying pretty much. Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, As for me, I actually like the first time I saw, they started a KRUMP crew called Esoterics. And I wasn't really that much into, like I wasn't in a crew or anything like that, but I saw them, I think it was, no, it was actually a thing called Strictly Hip Hop. And I think Justice Crew were with the tour. Yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, Justice Crew, like I want to see them. This was me, 16 years old. And like, so I brought a high school friend with me and then we like watched but then I saw these guys and I had like my camera and I was just like, it was so awesome. So I took so many pictures and then I actually have this video.
She was fangirling.
I was fangirling. I didn't even know what they were doing, but I was like, this is so cool. And they look so like good looking. And so I was just filming and screaming and everything like that.
I'm pretty sure she showed me the footage. And it was just like shaking ass going, yeah!
So embarrassing. And then, yeah, I think that was the first like exposure, I guess, I got into KRUMP. I didn't even know it was really called KRUMP at the time. And then I was in a crew for maybe like a year in. We were like, oh, let's expand our horizons. Let's do some freestyle. Let's go to a freestyle event. Maybe we can enter it. So we all went together as a crew to this All Stars event. And, this is when freestyle was just massive. So like everyone would just like bring their like home cooked meals and, sell their shirts and everything like that. It was dope. So first time I went to that and then I saw these guys. No, All City Invitationals or something. Yeah, but Burnt Morales, OG B-boy would hold that. But yeah, they were there. They were like in a corner, they were like the coolest, like looking dudes, like with their fresh ass, like clothing.
Yeah, we made sure to always be fresh.
They were always standing out. And then and I saw them dance, and I was like, I had one of my homies who was, he was also KRUMPing with them, and I was like, introduce me, like I want to do this, like I want to meet these guys and like actually learn and stuff. And then that was the first time I spoke to them, and I think pretty sure it was Ian. He was like, oh yeah, we have a session on Wednesday in the city. So I brought my friends with me. This is like 8 o'clock at night in the city, like no one's there. 17. I was scared. I was so scared. If this guy comes like, with his long dreads and hoodie and like coming through and it's like, yeah, let's go to the car park. And there's like abandoned car park and I'm like, what am I doing here? I was so scared, full of like dudes, and I had my friend with me. We were the only 2 girls. And then, yeah, like they were pretty accommodating actually. And they started dancing and I was just like, I was just taken aback from what they were doing. It was just expressive, and I think I was just really drawn to that. Yeah, sort of like an escape from, the drilling of the choreography at the time, because that was like my first thing into dance, and I was like, oh, like there's something really street and something very unique and expressive about this, which I think I really needed at the time. Yeah.
So how did you go from there? So once you kind of like, you saw these guys, like, they're in the car park and they're doing their thing, and then you're like inspired. Like what like helped you get to the next step where you're like, you know what, like I'm gonna dedicate myself to KRUMP. I'm gonna train in KRUMP. Like what was, did you ask someone, or like how did it work for you?
I just made sure I rocked up to pretty much every Wednesday session. And like it was crazy because like I had high school at the time, but like so I would get home like really late, like midnight sometimes, but like they would drive me home and stuff, which was cool. But yeah, I just made sure I rocked up all the time. I didn't talk much. I was super shy. Like you can even ask them, they could count the words that came out of my mouth in one session.
Buck.
Even my hyping, like you wouldn't hear me scream or anything like that. I was so quiet. And like I found myself like hyping like when everyone else was quiet. I was like, fuck, I should just stop hyping. typing. Like, all I hear is my voice. But yeah, like, you know, I got introduced to the whole like big homie aspect, and that's when Zilla, what was he at the time? Jay Hood, yeah. Yeah, we really connected really well. So like him as my big homie, he taught me a lot of things just to help me like level up. And yeah, like these guys weren't shy about telling you what to work on. They'll battle you on the spot as well. And I think like for me being there, the only girl that came consistently, they kind of like cherished me that way. So they were always on to me like, you can do this, like you can do that, and like you should do this more. And then if a girl came like, hey, like, you know, like you're a leader now, so like go talk to them and like you know, like try and like access those teaching skills from being a student. So yeah, they were onto me a lot actually.
That's dope.
Yeah.
It sounds like a super supportive community that you guys had over there. I can't even English. Sorry, I had a late one last night. But I'm curious because like we're over here, like in Melbourne, while this is all happening. What is the community like over there? Like, what was the like? Obviously, you guys were in this KRUMP scene. I'm curious to know like, what was the hip hop scene like, and then what was like the urban scene like, and how was it for you guys in terms of dance as a community in Perth?
Man, when I was coming up, like this was the dope thing about me entering at the time that I did. I caught the tail end of pretty much the OGs and and the coming of the new generation. So I was stuck. Yeah, I was stuck in the middle, and man, the OGs did a lot of shit. Like especially Systematic. Shout out to the homies. They did a lot for Perth hip hop culture. They were doing like corporate gigs and everything like that, teaching it pretty much everywhere, entering comps. And then they just ended up having having like internal conflict within the crew and stuff, breaking up. And then that was pretty much them.
Yeah.
They were the leaders of the b-boy scene at the time. But there were obviously still people emerging and everything. But like I came into KRUMP at the time and it was pretty big. Maybe there was like, doesn't sound like many people, but like there was probably about 30 odd people that were active in KRUMP for a while. And then it slowly like declined in numbers. And I think that was just because it was like a phase thing for people. It's like, yeah, KRUMP's the new thing. Let me do it for a little bit. And then, yeah, it just ended up dying. But the urban scene was dope at the time. Like it was really, really tight. And David Wynn was like the main dude, which we've both trained under as well. I can't remember how long I did Urban for. I think I did it for maybe like a year or 2 years in total. And then, yeah.
Was this classes? Like just like classes at a studio that you would just
I was in a crew, bro.
Oh, this is crew.
He was the first gen of the crew that I started in. So that was the Tribe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then the Tribe had the baby crew, the Prodigy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, man, like the Perth scene was actually really dope at the time that we were coming up. Like there was a fair amount going on. The level for like us as kids was pretty high, you know, and there was a lot of, yeah, just people that were like really in it for the culture, not necessarily just to teach because they had the opportunity to, I guess, teach movement, you know? It was way more about like culture and community and stuff that I feel like it is now anyway. What else was there? I did have a fairly hard time coming up in KRUMP though.
Why is that?
it was like, because it wasn't accepted. People thought that we were monkeys throwing our arms type thing, you know? And we went through that for a while. And then, yeah, people just, I think I sort of gave myself a bad rep because I was so pro KRUMP that only like the hip hop OGs that respected that type of being, I guess. Like, you know, when you're a b-boy or whatever, you come, like, you're coming into our house, you know what I mean? Like, as a b-boy, you're repping hip hop or whatever. If you're a new gen, blah blah blah, you need to like earn our respect type thing. If you dabble into b-boying, or for in my case KRUMP, like, you need to respect and know your history, know the culture of what it actually is and means to be a hip hop, like anything to do with hip hop culture. You need to know the roots. You need to know what you're actually dabbling in, because it has so much power. It's not just movement and not being just good at dancing, you know? It's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, freaking community that can really uplift and change the world. Like Erykah Badu says it the best, hip hop's bigger than the government. It's bigger than any religion. Like, it's a worldwide culture, you know? And you can't find that unless you come to hip hop.
Yeah. Do you find that people nowadays are kind of maybe losing that connection to the roots, and then that feeling of like, yeah, digging deep and like, you know, really being a part of it? And maybe that's why our growth as a country maybe hasn't been as progressive as maybe other countries.
Definitely.
I definitely think so. Like, I tell my students all the time, like, do your history, do your own history. Because like for me, like, soon as I started doing that, or got told to do that, I started to cherish more of what like these guys were doing. And then that's when my mentality switched, and like I was like, okay, like I'm really in it to actually learn about a culture, not just like dance moves. And then you know, that's when I started respecting other dance cultures. And then I realized that this whole like dance in general, they all have the same shit. You know, they all have the same roots and everything like that. And so that's when it just made me like appreciate, you know, the OGs, how hard they worked, and veterans at the moment, and people that are doing and pushing through various pathways. And it just, I feel like that's what is missing at the moment. But yeah, that's what I share all the time.
Yeah, I think also because it's like, maybe it could be that it's so easily accessible. People just want to have fun, which is obviously fine, right? But I think people miss, and I think there's a stigma as well, to the fact of like when people say, oh, you need to know the culture to be in the culture. Fair enough, yeah. Definitely, I 100% agree with that. It's like if you're studying something, you can't study it and know it fully if you're not immersing yourself and encompassing yourself with it. So how are you going to actually understand it, right? But this, I just came up with this and made the connection just then, is like, if you know more about a culture, it allows you to know more about yourself and question more about where you come from, and like what morals and ideals and values that you hold as a person, and where you're dancing from, even what you want to do with dance and stuff like that. And I think that's really super important, not just as a dancer, but as an artist and as a person, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Artists, art just allows you to uncover more of who you are. And I think that not that it's missing, I just don't personally feel or see a lot of it from dancers nowadays. I really don't. Even in the KRUMP scene, like there's so many people that dance to be type, or only care about being type, or, you know, looking a certain way or fitting in and stuff, which I get too. I empathize with that because I was there too. But, you know, the more you dig, you're always going to get more substance. You're always going to get and uncover more about your being. And I think that's so empowering, and people need to understand that part of what culture is. Because, like, take Australia, for example, we are so disconnected from what our indigenous people are to the land. And even they are, which is crazy to me, you know? And we see so much more of that disconnection in Perth, or saw it in Perth, than in Melbourne. Like, you barely see indigenous people here. But, like, in Perth, they were everywhere. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were disconnected. And it's very, for me, I get upset just thinking about it, because if they knew, I feel like they just forgot who they were, you know? And for me, dance allowed me to remember, and I still am remembering who I am, you know?
Right.
And what I want to do. Yeah.
Boom.
We're like, whoa.
I'm like, I totally feel that. Yeah. I think it's like just, I guess, understanding culture, and really, like, not even just dance culture, but just culture as a whole, and just like your culture, where you come from, and like maybe where your parents are from, and like, you know, that lineage, and understanding that will help you understand who you are and why you are the way that you are as well.
Yeah. Like, there's something like I've been discovering for the last year or so, and this is like kind of like thanks to I'm just like dropping her name here because she's doing an amazing job, which is Yaya Vancouver. So she has this IUR Alliance. We're doing homework like all the time, studying stuff, and she recently did a Ito Portal camp. So he's like a movement coach. Yeah. And like, so this, I was just really invested, because this is the first time I heard about this guy. And so I was really invested. So I did a bit of research, and like it's so, oh, and shout out to Jungle City. They did a like a teacher, I guess, teacher training for us before we started the year, and it was just so insightful, and all these things came together. Like, movement is rigged, like, in our system. Like, we must have movement. So that's why there was like a part of me where people would just dance for fun, which is cool, but movement came before verbal language, right? So you like, so, you know, there were like dances to like celebrate birth, dances for death, dances for you know, war, sustenance, and, you know, foraging, and you had all these like dances for particular things, and like certain movements to help, like bowel movements and breathing and activating your mind. So it's like this was a part of your life. Whereas now, nowadays, especially with the mindset we have now, it's more like fun, or it's just like something like a hobby, or it's a job, but it's actually, it should be as important as eating every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That's something that I feel like we as human beings have to get back into us.
Yeah. How did you go about finding out that information? Like, when you when that thought kind of came across your mind, like what kind of feelings did you have towards dance after that? I know this question is kind of vague, but I'm just interested in like after hearing that information, like how do you process that in terms of dance? Like what kind of steps do you take to incorporate that?
I really just like, so I'm quite a spiritual person. So I sort of like actually like kind of flip that to that sort of perspective where, like, you know, everything that I pretty much do with dance is a reflection of myself and vice versa. So like, I obviously have to do some of the outside work of, like, you know, looking after my health and my mind, but at the same time, like, I'm going to use that stuff and put it into dance, so then as I dance, this will reflect back into me and I will learn from that experience. So it becomes like this 360 cycle. And like, it's a journey. Like, you don't just get it like that, because like, for that information like that I told you, that was like, it was a massive light bulb, but then implementing it is something else. So it's just like researching, then doing, and then reflecting it back, researching and doing, and going around.
Like my big homie Beast said, and I'm sure that pretty much every dancer will say this as well, like, dance is therapy, man. It heals you then and there. Like, even if it is something as simple as from being upset or angry or whatever, to being content and calm and feeling like you have a purpose, or just feeling good, or even feeling love with the amount of hype that you get in a session. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this shit because I feel it so much, you know? And it's like, people need to experience that way more, like way more, regardless of whether you're an urban dancer or whatever, you know? I think that both choreography and freestyle do very similar things, and we need to utilize it more. And just, there's more, even in me just saying like it can help you emotionally. I feel like I'm not even dancing as myself when I'm dancing. I feel like I'm connected to something that has infinite possibility of manifesting stuff through me, if that makes sense.
I get you.
Whether that be movement, or even just consciously, you know, choosing one pathway to create something from, and then moving to the next thing, and then continuously finding that flow. And being in a flow state is so important as a human, regardless of what you do for a job. You know, putting yourself in a state of like bliss is so important, and it's so freaking like healthy. And sometimes it's like, I don't know how to say it. Like, it's just,
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like the energy of the universe is about creation, right?
Exactly.
And so when we express ourselves and we're constantly creating, like, as an artist would create a painting, we create different stories with our movement.
Exactly. Like, we're all artists, man. You know? And like Nadiah was saying before, we could move before, like, look at a baby. It moves before it talks.
When it's in the womb, it's like,
we're already moving.
It's having a session in the womb.
hey.
You know, we're moving to that, we're dancing to the heartbeat already.
You already got the music going like this.
Yeah, like the heartbeat is music. So it's like, we're already connected to something. It's just,
why do
seeing
you,
it that way.
What?
You know?
Why do you think people don't see it that way? Like, you know how some people might be like, I can't dance, or I don't dance. Like, why do you think they have that association in terms of mindset and movement?
I think there's just a lot of distractions, and then there's a lot of voices where it's like, whether it's from the TV or like the ads, and it's just like random thoughts, because I teach a lot of adults, so like they'll be like in their like 30s to 50s, and then, you know, they already have like this presumption that like I don't dance, like, you know, like I don't have the move, that's why I'm coming to class. But then, like, you know, you see them like really like train for like this 1 minute like you know, choreography, but they're taught to like really like how would I say, like deconstruct it, like they don't know how to move. But then so like they think too much. They don't just follow with their body.
They're not
like,
connected to their body.
Yeah, they're not connected to their body. It's always like, oh, like I should move like this and then at this angle, like that type of thing. And like you see it on their faces, but as soon as it's like the end of class and you're like, yeah, guys, just like, you know, just go with it, just flow with it. I'm gonna put the music on really loud, and they're like, they're actually dancing and they pull out like, you know, those seconds of like where they're not thinking. You're like, what the hell? Like that was dope. And you know, like they still believe they don't dance, but then it's like, me as a teacher, I'm like, it's there.
It's
like
there.
you need to stop thinking, like you're actually moving and grooving, whether it's technical or not. And I think people should be okay with that and not really, you know, I guess fantasize about looking like the best and whatnot. Yeah.
For sure. I think you hit it on the head there. And I feel like I don't know, I'm a very visual person. I'm just seeing like these people who have built like these walls that they've kind of just like layers of walls, and it's like slowly kind of breaking them down to understand that you've just put up these walls yourself in your own mind.
Yeah.
Totally. I think it's connecting to that. I think people just don't know. They just have no idea that they can dance, you know, like, or they can move. Let's put it that way, you know. It's very, and I think, like Nadiah's saying, like the distractions, we're just very disconnected from ourselves. And I think that dance is something that's somewhat intimidating for a lot of people because you put yourself in a vulnerable state. And people are so scared of that. So scared of that. And that's what I reckon it is.
I feel like people are afraid of like using their body, and like some people just hate their bodies as well, but like you only get one, you know?
That right there.
Oh my goodness.
Like people, there's so many people like, oh, I'm too big to dance.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? I have too much flab or whatever. But, you know, and I think, and that's the irritating thing about mainstream media, because they portray dancers as these athletic people, which, we are if you want to consider it a sport, but everyone is a dancer. Everyone's a mover, like, you know, and there's big people in every street dance style, but you won't see big people in like a studio setting. Even in urban, you'll see it, but in an actual studio setting, like ballet, contempt, all of that type of shit, you'd never see that. And that's what's like imprinted on people's minds that view dancing one type of way.
Can I just say, people forget to party as well. Like, this is one thing like that. I love, like when I started dating Ian, his family, like they would have parties where they would have like cousins and second cousins and all these distant relatives, but everybody would get down. They would do the electric slide, and I'm like, I've never seen this before, and I've been dancing for ages, and it's awesome. Like you see 50-year-olds doing the electric slide. Like we need to do that more.
Yeah, it's the essence of it. Hey, like
facts.
Yeah, I think people forget sometimes, and I think sometimes I guess there's connotations that come with partying as well.
For sure.
Yeah,
I feel like dance and partying is the same thing that all humans have in common. You know, we all dance and party. I was watching this TV show called Unorthodox. It's about like a Jewish, like extreme Jewish community, and it was a wedding setting, and they were just dancing, and just the dancer inside of me is like, they're all just dancing, you know, they're just enjoying their time. It's like, and that's exactly the same as what I do, you know.
I guess it's like celebrating, huh? It's like, it's like just a big celebration, and it's like, I guess a way to express that is dancing. Which is cool because like you can see anyone like at a wedding like not know a thing about dance, but when the music comes on, they just jump on the floor and they do something, and it's like
Yeah.
that's dance.
And we should all be celebrating life all the time, you know? And that's why we should be dancing all the time.
Yeah.
Ooh, 100%.
Oh, my brain.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, what's interesting is like, why do you think the dance scene? I think we kind of started talking about this last week, but in terms of like the Australian dance scene, why do you think we have less opportunities over here versus what's happening in Asia and what's happening, you know, Korea, China, United States, like LA, New York, like that kind of stuff? Like, why do you think over here, just yeah, there's less opportunity, both mainstream media, like teachers, studios.
Do you want to start?
Let me think about it.
Okay,
I
so
need a good question.
I think that it's because, like, yes, we're multicultural, but we also don't know the roots of the land that we're on,
Mm.
and even the original people of the land here don't necessarily know either. That's what I feel anyway, like new generation and stuff. And yeah, it's just such a like westernized society, you know,
Yeah.
that it just, I feel like it just disconnects you from everything else. And yeah, like in every culture, like first generation culture, they all had dancing. Every tribe had dances, you know? And I think the more that you are connected to, whether it be your own culture or the culture of the actual country, you'll be more open to what art can offer. Because I feel like all tribes and all like original people were artists, you know? They all created, like in their small tribe, they had creators all the time, weaving, whatever, this, that, and the other. But now it's like so corporate that we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, they don't see the value in it as much anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, putting it down to it, I would say it's just because we're like desensitized to what culture actually is in Australia, because we're looking outside of ourselves at other countries and trying to copy what other people do, when we have so much, well, I believe that we have so much to offer here in terms of culture and what we do as artists, but we always look outside ourselves to create that. And that doesn't make sense. You have to start, I guess, within, you know?
For sure. I mean, like, I don't really see the Australian government looking towards the history of the Indigenous people and where everything comes from. Like, I just don't feel that. You know what I mean?
No way. And if they did, Australia would be a very, very different place. A very different place. I think it would be a lot more, it would be a way more spiritual place as well. Like, you can still go to communities and stuff and find that, but it's not at the forefront of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like a charity case type thing, and that's just so whack.
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't have like an exact answer, but there's always like theories that you can, I guess, try and see if that works. But I also believe like we're always, I guess Australia is chasing, in a sense, like there'll be like, you know, I guess the US having like an idea, and Australia will be like, okay, yeah, like let's do that, instead of like, you know, making our like own thing. And like me just thinking about it, like the US, they would have like actual like, you know, hip hop shows, and then kids would run the hip hop shows, like the urban kids, with the neighborhood dancing and stuff like that. Same with like Japan, for example, you had like a street dance crew, like TV show, you know, and then you got ABDC, for example. Yeah, whereas here, I don't think we have like that, how would you say, like that filmmaking industry of like actual like, you know, hip hop movies or like TV series. Like the TV series would just be like a studio dancing of like ballet or jazz. Like there's no real light on a street dance or cultural sense that I have seen, in my opinion. And I think maybe like that is like part of the issue. Yeah. Because when we go into schools, you don't really see much kids dancing anymore, and they're usually pretty shy to show you as well. Yeah.
I may get slack for this, but I reckon it's also to do with the amount of work that the OGs put in as well. Like, so that's one thing which I will speak on, but the second thing is like, there's not enough, well, I feel like our government feels like there's not enough money to be putting into it.
Right.
That, to me, that is because of the OGs and the amount of, you know, I have no doubt that they put in a lot of work, but like in the right way, I don't know if they did that, if that makes sense. Because like I went through a time period in KRUMP where, so I'm an OG of Perth, but I still felt like the people even before me on the East Coast could have done a lot more in terms of like actually leading to really benefit the community and give like the little homies qualities that they found within themselves in KRUMP, if that makes sense. Like, so they passed down the dance, cool, but they didn't pass down qualities of being able to be opportunists and spread it out to wider communities and stuff like that. Right. No dancer really looks outside of the dance community to give it to other people. That's what I think anyway. And that's something that I feel needs to change, because we're so like focused on, yeah, let's do this for the dance community and build our dance community. But how can you build something and continuously work on the same thing? You have to go outside to seek people that aren't aware of it and then bring them in. Otherwise, it's not going to move anywhere or do anything other than what we're doing now type thing. You know? Yeah. So we need innovators.
Vulnerable.
Sorry?
It's kind of like being vulnerable, but in like, if dance was a being, it's like stepping outside of your comfort zone as a dancer, or as if dance was to, you know, step outside of what we've got, like this bubble, and to reach out to other, you know, communities, or like, you know, the government, and like look at the councils and like have more of a presence there where we haven't been before.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that a lot of councils, like we did this heaps in Perth. Councils want it, man, because there's so many like kids like, or that we were back then, that were troubled. We didn't know what the heck to do.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they don't have an outlet, they end up doing stupid shit. They end up moving to something that is more detrimental to their health and well-being and stuff like that. And they don't get what actually is beneficial for them. And it's like, how do they know where to go for that?
Yeah.
Even youth centers are like crappy, really, because they only provide certain things, you know, when it's like, where's the art at? Where's the dance at in a youth center? They don't look at hip hop and stuff. They just look at what's mainstream and what everyone else is doing, you know? And they're like, oh, do you think that this will work if we hold a hip hop thing or whatever? But every kid listens to hip hop. You know, like hip hop music is mainstream, even if it is whack. You know what I'm saying? But it is, and people listen to that, and then they get drawn into that side of hip hop when there's so much more light on the other side, but they don't know it.
Yeah.
Because they're not shown.
Oh, sorry, I just had to bring this up. But like, especially when it comes to music, you know, you have like studios, you know, okay, I understand some studios don't want to play Michael Jackson because of the accusations of like children and stuff like that. Fair enough. But then when you're playing, you know, like when you're allowed, other people are allowed to play music, like from Lady Gaga, when it's a whole, not just all her songs, but when there's like majority of songs and music videos that are like intense sexualization, but you won't, you know, want to play like some like dance hall music that says something quite indirect. Like, you know, like where's the line really? Like hip hop music has been taken out in studios drastically, but we're allowed like, you know, Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and all this other stuff. So, you know, how can we find, I guess, like being able to put, yeah, that's the right word. Yeah.
It is a weird one in terms of, I guess, how people perceive, because it's at the end of the day, it's expression, and like it's like everyone is entitled to say what they want to say on a track, you know. So it's like, where does that line sit in Australia versus, because I think in the States, like what they have is like this, like everyone's pretty strong about freedom of speech, and
for sure.
I feel like
here
it's
not the same.
Irrational fear, because what is the fear that these kids are going to turn out like that if they listen to that kind of music? But
there's a lot of fear here.
In reality, they're going to listen to it behind your back anyway, right?
And you look at us, like we turned out all right.
Yeah. We do okay. Okay. Well, in terms of, you know, on the subject of community and growing the community, and I think what you're saying here is like super dope, and I can totally relate in terms of growing it for the future and not just for now, but really thinking like what can I do to really help build dance as a whole, and not like, to be able to pass it on. What tips would you give to someone who is maybe thinking about doing something like that, or wanting for, you know, dance to, you know, grow? Like what tips would you give to someone who's thinking about that?
One would be for sure know your history.
Yeah.
Two would be to stay active and know where your dancers are presently, and I guess just keeping up with not necessarily trends, but just where it's going, you know. And come and talk to us.
True.
We're all about that. Like, our end goal is to bring people back to what we believe dance should be, which is pretty much a spiritual practice and an actual healing center for ourselves. But another tip would probably be like, get some people together and look outside the dance community for opportunities, because the dance community isn't always going to actually support you, as upsetting as that is. They just won't. So look outside.
I think, I guess like you pretty much summed it up. But I think it's also like, make sure that you are, I guess, start off doing it for yourself, really. Because then it can, if you're like always giving and you feel like you're not getting anything back, that's when it can become sour, and the intention of doing this whole thing becomes egotistical, and all it will do is just backfire, and you create resentment and stuff like that. And that's where creativity and sympathy and compassion just runs really low. So I would just say, just keep doing it for yourself.
Be more conscious of what it does for you, so that you can also give that back to people. Because I think that's what's really, for me anyway, I think it's what's really dope about KRUMP, because we break down so much of your body and put a why behind every movement. It's not necessarily like, okay, do this, do that, and that's it. It's like, why are you doing that? Is it real? I'm gonna show you how to make it real by putting your emotion and facial expression into it, and use the language that we have to actually say what you want to say, that you're not able to say every day, type thing.
Yeah.
Because with dance, we have a freedom of expression, and that's so freaking powerful. People don't see that. They're just like, let's send our kids to a dance studio as like daycare so we can have free time and shit. But like for us, when we were teaching young kids, they get so much more out of it. And like, we've had parents message us, man. Like, and I'm talking about kids that are like 8 years old to 12, hit us up and be like, thank you so much for like teaching our kids. They've changed so much, and they come back happy all the time, and they love your class. It gives them more confidence and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's what dance is, man. It's not just like for clout.
Yeah.
F that shit. Like, throw that out the window. You know what I mean? If you're dancing for clout, get out.
That's a good saying. If you're dancing for clout, get out.
Hey, if Vlad's listening to this, put it on a shirt.
Shout out to
As
Vlad.
he's repping the Battle Royale shirt.
Put it on a shirt.
That's dope. That's a dope saying. That should be the name of this podcast, I reckon.
Yeah. All right.
I reckon that would sell.
Yeah. That's gangster. Yeah, but that's some real shit. And I think at the end of the day, like, I think there's levels to it. And I think like, you get to that point where you are in your dance journey and you realize that this is more than just dance. Like, there's so much more to it if you are able to just have an open mind to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it really, like, there's good teachers that teach you movement and like steps and stuff. But to me, being a great teacher is giving you more, like giving you life shit to work with in your movement as well. Because then it relates to you. You feel empowered when you go out of a class, when you get out of a class, because it's not just like, I achieved something. It's like, I achieved and learned more about myself in the process of it. And I think that is so important, especially in the world of today, when there's so much bombardment of negative shit and like subconscious programming coming from Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. We need to find ourselves in all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just like the drive, I guess, is you just got to remember that like dance or movement in general was always a way to like celebrate, express, and
journey.
Yeah, because like as a teacher, for example, like like certain moves, they release trauma for certain individuals because we as human beings, like, you know, experience things differently. Like, for example, like if you have like a really tense neck, this is where you hold your trauma, this is where you hold your stress. And so certain moves will be like detrimental to one student, whereas the other is totally normal. So then, you know, they might learn something very differently, and you got to be aware of that as a teacher and understand that movement is essential, but it works different for everybody.
Yeah. Dang. That's tight. Well, I think we got to wrap this up soon, but it's been like very insightful talking to you guys about this. And I think a key kind of underlying message that we've just kind of keep stumbling across is like knowing yourself and understanding who you are. So a question that we've asked a few people now is, what advice would you give to yourself if you could go back and talk to yourself, let's say 10 years ago, and if you could fly back and be like, yo, it's me from the future. What advice would you give if you could only give one tip?
I don't think I would. Like, I think I'll just let it play out, because I just love how I've learned everything and where I'm going.
I think I would, I guess it's along the lines of that, but I would make sure to tell myself to be in touch with yourself, to be yourself and keep the distraction away. Because distraction creates procrastination and pretty much everything negative that you want to like be thinking about more of.
Word.
Or less of, sorry. And I would say one more thing in connection to that would be don't fear as well, because it is just as powerful as love if you turn it upside down. Because on the other side of fear, you can always find something that's beautiful. Or inside of fear, you can find something that's beautiful, and that's always a lesson. And I feel like I only learned that maybe like 6 years ago, which is a lot of experience from that time. But if I could have learned that when I started high school, even, God damn, I would
over.
Like, I would really feel like I'm unbeatable in every way. You know what I mean? I would feel invincible to everything. And I feel like I've only got hold of that, I guess, like now.
But how did you learn that? I'm just curious. How did you learn that lesson? Like
of feeling like nothing can break me?
Of not fearing fear itself. Was it a kind of moment? Was it just like an aha moment where it was like,
Nah.
It ain't doing shit for me. I'm scared of that.
I think it's a continuous, like, I always get reminded about it.
Yeah.
I always do, because, you know, there's so many things that, like, you can't have one without the other, basically. I learned that a long time ago, and a lot of people only see things from one perspective, and those are the people that I feel don't necessarily grow, because you need to open your mind to possibility, which means perspective. Because, like, for example, like, and KRUMP has taught me this a lot, even as a spiritual being, and like doing a lot of research into what consciousness is, and like the quantum field and who we are as humans and stuff like that, KRUMP, or just dance in general, has given me so much insight into that whole dynamic of love and fear. Because when we dance, we're like, oh fuck, like I hope I don't mess up, you know, or it's like, I hope that I win this competition. And that's like all fear-based mentality, you know? And it's like, for me, it was more so the fact of going back into why I started dancing in the first place. And that was to enjoy and to be in a state of blissful energy to allow myself to be better, you know? And to have an open mind so that I'm not like when I do stray down a path of, I guess, darkness, is to always know that there's a bigger reason, and there's always a lesson, even if you can't see it in the present moment. Like there's always a lesson. And I think people need to be more open to discussing those types of things. And if you can't, start dancing, because that'll allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Boom.
Wow.
And there it is. That's sick, man. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I think
so much.
Yeah, man, like this conversation has really sparked a lot of thoughts, I think, in terms of just growth as a person, as a dancer as well. And I think a lot of people will get a lot out of this. But yeah, like you guys are incredible. And I think Melbourne is super lucky to have you guys come through. I feel like you guys have really helped the scene grow. So yeah, man, like just thank you.
Yeah. You guys, really reminded me how much I love dance, what I love about dance as well. And I am going to go dance after this. I have to. I need to dance. I've been sitting for too long.
Yeah, it's just dope to meet people like that have the same, like a similar mindset to dance, and it's cool to see that because you don't come across that every day. So it's dope, man. And so where can people find you? People are listening right now and they're like, man, like I love this. Like how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, Nadiah Biddle on Facebook, Instagram, Nadiah Bids, or
with a H.
With a H, yes, please. I have a H at the end of my name.
Nadiah with Nadiah.
Nadiah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah. For me, Ian de Mello on Facebook, or dancer.mc on Instagram. And the MC is spelled EMCEE. Yes, sir.
Sick. All right. Well,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for hopping on. I am going to stop this recording.
Thank you.
But yeah.